In the markets of Florence, there was a man who worked harder than anyone the boy had ever seen. He arrived before the sun and left after the moon. He carried the heaviest loads, took the fewest rests, and never once complained. His hands were split, his back was bent, and his whole life was labor. If effort were the price of wealth, this man should have been the richest in the city. He was one of the poorest. And a few streets away, there was another man who seemed to do almost nothing. He arrived late. He rested often. He lifted nothing heavier than a cup. And yet the coins flowed to him like water finds the sea, steadily, quietly, without struggle. The boy watched both men for a long time, and a question began to burn in him that no adult around him ever seemed to ask. If hard work is the road to wealth, why are the hardest workers so often the poorest? Everyone in Florence repeated the same comforting lie: work harder, sweat more, suffer, and one day you will be rewarded. The boy heard it from the priests, from the masters, from the tired men in the taverns who believed it right up until the day they died still poor. They had given their whole lives to effort, and effort had not saved a single one of them. So the boy stopped listening to what men said about money and started watching what money actually did. And what he saw changed everything. Because money, he realized, is not moved by how hard you try. It does not see your aching back or your long hours. It does not reward your suffering, and it does not care how tired you are. Money is not loyal to the worker. It is loyal to something else entirely. Something most people never even think to look for, because they are too busy sweating to lift their eyes. Here is the truth that took the boy years to understand, and that most grown men never understand at all. Money does not chase the hardest worker. It chases something specific, something you can learn to become. And once you see what it truly follows, you can never go back to believing that effort alone will save you. This is not a lesson about working less. The boy was no stranger to work. It is a lesson about working on the right thing. Because a lifetime of effort aimed at the wrong target builds nothing but exhaustion. So, before we begin, hold one honest question in your mind. All these years, have you been trying to work harder than everyone around you? And has it made you rich? Or only tired? Sit with that. Because the answer to where money truly runs is not hidden in how much you sweat. The first clue is in who money chooses, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The first clue came from watching two men on the same morning. The first man spent his day carrying stones from one end of Florence to the other. Up the hills, down the alleys, load after load, until his arms shook and his tunic was soaked through. By nightfall, he had moved a mountain, one stone at a time, and for all of it, he was paid a handful of coins, barely enough to eat, and certainly not enough to escape. The second man did something the boy almost missed because it looked like nothing at all. He sat in the shade and thought. The city had a problem. The merchants could not tell which of their goods were spoiling before they reached the market, and this man, in an afternoon of quiet thinking, showed them a simple way to know. He barely lifted a finger. He never broke a sweat, and the merchants paid him more in a single day than the stone carrier earned in a season. The boy sat with this until it unlocked something in him. The stone carrier was paid for his effort. The thinker was paid for his value. And these are not the same thing. They are almost opposites. Effort is what you spend. Value is what others receive. The market has never once cared how hard you worked, how tired you became, or how much you suffered to do it. It cares about one thing only. What did other people gain because of you? This is the first clue to where money runs. It does not follow sweat. It follows value. The problems you solve, the needs you meet, the burdens you lift from other people's shoulders. The stone carrier lifted stones. The thinker lifted a problem, often an entire city, and the city paid him for it gladly. Most people spend their whole lives trying to be paid for their effort. They count their hours, their exhaustion, their sacrifice, and they cannot understand why the coins do not come. But no one is ever paid for what it costs them. They are paid for what it gives to others. Your tiredness is invisible to the world. Only your value can be seen. So stop for a moment and ask yourself honestly, when you work, are you creating effort or are you creating value? Are you carrying stones or are you solving something that matters to other people? The difference between those two questions is the difference between a life of labor and a life of wealth. The boy understood that morning that he did not need to work harder than the stone carrier. He needed to become more valuable than the stone carrying itself, to solve, not merely to sweat. But value alone is only the beginning, because the boy soon noticed something troubling. A man could create enormous value and still stay poor his whole life, if he failed to do the one thing that comes next. The boy found the second clue inside a workshop, watching a man create something beautiful. The craftsman was a master. His hands could turn raw cloth into garments the nobles of Florence fought to wear. He knew every stitch, every dye, every secret his trade could hold. No one in the city could do what he did with his own two hands. He created enormous value, real, visible, undeniable value. And he worked from dawn until his candles burned low. At the end of the year, he was still poor. Standing near the door was another man, and this one could barely sew a button. He had no gift, no craft, no genius in his hands at all. But he owned the workshop. He owned the tools, the tables, the doors, and the name above them. The master's brilliant work flowed through his hands, and the profit flowed into the owner's chest. The one who made the value earned a wage. The one who owned the place where value was made grew rich. The boy stood there a long time, and the second clue settled into him like a stone into still water. Money does not simply chase value. It chases ownership of value. It flows not to the hand that makes the thing, but to the one who owns the thing that makes it. The craftsman sold his skill by the hour, and so his wealth ended the moment his hands stopped moving. The owner sold nothing of himself at all. He simply owned, and ownership paid him whether he worked or slept. This is the trap that swallows the talented and the hardworking alike. They pour their genius into something they do not own, and they cannot understand why the wealth always seems to gather somewhere just out of reach. It gathers in the hands of the owner. It always has. To create value and to own value are two different lives. The first makes you useful. The second makes you free. The worker is paid once for the work he did today. The owner is paid again and again for something he secured once and holds. And the difference between them, over a lifetime, is the difference between a full life of labor and a name that outlives you. So ask yourself plainly, in your own life, are you the craftsman or the owner? Do you only make value with your hands? Or do you own something that holds its value, even when your hands are still? Most people have never once asked it, and most people, having never asked, remain the craftsman forever. The boy decided that day that he would not spend his life making other men rich. He would learn to own, but ownership, he would soon discover, comes in two kinds, and one of them is quietly far more powerful than the other. Because one kind of ownership works only while you watch it, and the other works even while you sleep. The boy found the third clue at the river, where two men were trying to make a living from the same water. The first man stood at the edge with a bucket. All day he bent down, filled it, carried it to the fields, and came back for more. His arms never rested. The moment he stopped lifting, the water stopped moving, and everything he earned depended on his own body never failing him. He owned his bucket, and his bucket owned his life. The second man had built something, a small wooden mill set into the current, turning by itself. He had worked hard once, to design it, to raise it, to set it into the river. And then he had stepped back, and the wheel kept turning. Through his meals, through his rest, through the night while he slept, The water pushed the wheel, and the wheel did the work. One man had to be present to earn. The other had built a thing that earned without him. The boy watched the mill turn in the dark long after its builder had gone home, and the third clue became clear. Money does not only chase ownership, it chases ownership that multiplies. Value that keeps flowing when you are not there to push it. Because a man has only 2 hands in one lifetime, and human effort cannot scale. No matter how strong you are, you can only carry so many buckets before the sun sets and your body gives out. But a mill, a system, a thing that serves many at once, that has no such limit. It works while you eat, while you rest, while you live the rest of your life. This is why the wealthiest men in Florence were never the busiest. They had stopped trading their hands for coins and started building wheels that turned on their own. A thing made once that serves 1,000 people. A system that runs without its maker standing over it. Ownership that produces while its owner sleeps. The man with the bucket believed he was being wise by never resting. But his diligence was a cage. The moment he stopped, everything stopped. The man with the mill understood the secret the bucket carrier never would. The goal is not to work without stopping. The goal is to build something that does not stop when you do. So ask yourself honestly, if you laid down tomorrow and did not rise to work, not for a day but for a year, would anything you own keep earning? Or would it all fall silent the moment your hands went still? For most people, the answer is silence. And that silence is the whole reason they are not yet free. The boy resolved to spend his life building mills, not carrying buckets. But even the man with the turning wheel had not yet learned the strangest truth of all. Because value that multiplies still runs from one thing and runs toward another. And that is the 4th clue. The 4th clue was the strangest because it worked backwards from everything the boy expected. There was a merchant in Florence who wanted wealth more than anyone. You could see it on him. He chased every buyer through the market, gripping their sleeves, dropping his price, pleading for the sale. He needed the coin so badly that his need was written on his face, and the buyers felt it, and they pulled away. The harder he chased, the faster they fled. His desperation emptied his stall. A few steps away sat another merchant who did not chase at all. He had good cloth, a fair name, and a quiet certainty about him. He did not grip anyone's sleeve. He did not beg. He simply waited, calm, as though he did not need any single sale. And the buyers drifted toward him, trusting him precisely because he was not desperate for them. The one who chased starved. The one who stood still was sought. The boy turned this over for a long time because it seemed to break every rule. And then he understood. Money behaves like a frightened animal. Chase it with hunger in your eyes, and it bolts. Stand still with something worth having, and it comes to you on its own. Desperation repels. Position attracts. The man who needs the money most is the man money runs from, because his need makes him careless, makes him beg, makes him accept any scrap, and the world can smell it. But the man who has built real value and can afford to wait becomes a kind of magnet. Wealth moves toward the one who does not chase. This is why reputation is worth more than effort, and why serving many people quietly builds more wealth than pursuing a few loudly. When you have made yourself genuinely useful to the many, you no longer have to run after anyone. Your value speaks, your name travels, and the coins come looking for you. The boys saw that the truly wealthy of Florence never seemed to be chasing at all. They had arranged their lives so that money had every reason to come to them, and they had only to be patient enough to let it. So the deepest question is not how fast you can run after money. It is this: have you built a life that money has any reason to run toward? Or are you still the merchant gripping sleeves in the market, wondering why the harder you chase, the faster it all slips away? The boy learned to stop chasing, to build value, own it, let it multiply, and then to wait, calm and unhurried, like a man who knows the coins will find his door. And standing there in the market, watching the calm merchant and the desperate one, the boy finally saw how every clue fit together into a single answer. The one truth beneath all the others, the thing money has been chasing all along. And so, standing in the market between the two merchants, the boy finally saw the whole answer. He had begun with a single question. If hard work is the road to wealth, why are the hardest workers so often the poorest? He had watched the stone carrier break his body for a handful of coins. He had watched the master craftsman grow old and poor inside another man's workshop. He had watched the bucket carrier's diligence become his cage, and the desperate merchant chase away the very wealth he begged for. And clue by clue, the truth had assembled itself. Money never chased the hardest worker. It never once cared about sweat. Money chases value. What you give to others, not what it costs you. It chases ownership, the source of the value, not the hand that makes it. It chases what multiplies. The mill, not the bucket, the thing that serves many and works while you sleep. And it moves toward the calm and away from the desperate, toward the one who has built something worth having and is patient enough not to chase it. That is the answer the boy would carry for the rest of his life. Money does not follow effort. It follows value that you own, that multiplies without you, offered by someone steady enough not to beg for it. Every wealthy man he ever studied had these things. Every poor and exhausted man he ever pitied had traded his one life for effort alone. And here's the hardest part, the part most men never accept. None of this asks you to work less. The boy worked hard all his life. It asks you to aim that work at something entirely different, to stop trying to be the busiest man in the room and start becoming the most valuable, to stop carrying stones faster than everyone else and start owning the road they walk on. So look honestly at your own life, the way the boy learned to look at Florence. All this time, have you been trying to run faster than everyone around you? Or have you been becoming someone the money has a reason to run toward? Because those are two entirely different races, and only one of them ever ends in freedom. Most people will hear all of this, nod, and go back to work tomorrow exactly as they did today, chasing, sweating, and wondering why the coins never come. A few will stop, a few will lift their eyes and begin building value instead of just spending effort. The boy could not tell you which one you will be. Only you can. If you intend to be one of the few, then follow this boy. Because every fable here teaches the one thing no one else will, how the world of money actually works. The next lesson is already waiting. Stop running after it. Become the thing it runs toward.